like a lot.
A lot of things. It's really not that.
No, I'll do it too.
We'll see you at the finish.
We'll see you when
All right,
you're
buddy.
done.
Bye. Good job.
Good job, runner. Stay strong. Woo-hoo.
So today is Saturday, August 2nd, 2019. I'm currently 27 years old. In about a month and 2 days, I'll be 28. By my 29th birthday, I want to run an ultramarathon. Why do I want to do this? I don't really have a good answer other than the fact that it's a challenge that exists in the world. I ran competitively in high school. I ran extracurricularly a little bit after that until the military decided to ruin running for me for a long time. And I guess ultimately I'm just kind of curious about whether or not I have that kind of gumption in my own bones. So I made this decision yesterday, and whether or not it'll come to fruition is anyone's guess. I have a really bad habit of starting things and not finishing them, and that's part of the reason for filming this, is to hold myself a little bit more accountable. And I'll probably tell my wife of my intentions, I don't know, after I've been doing this a couple months probably. Right now I can comfortably run 3 or 4 miles, so an ultra is a good ways away. I've yet to come up with a training plan. I haven't decided on what race I want to run. I'm not even sure where I'll be living a year from now. I might be back in Alabama. Currently we're in Tampa. But, I can figure all that stuff out later. But it'll be interesting if nothing else.
I think ultimately what I do enjoy about this, if this can really be called enjoyment, is that it's monotonous, which can obviously be a downside, but it gives me the ability to just zone out. All I have to think about is my breathing. And beyond that, I can think about whatever. I can think about what I have to do later today or tomorrow. I can think about what I want to make for dinner, what kind of beer I want when I'm done with this. And I can think about what I'm going to say in this video. And I think on kind of a larger scale, what this is going to kind of do for me is tie up some loose ends in my life. So right now, time management isn't an issue because 3 miles only takes me 30 minutes or so. But when I'm doing 10, 15, 20 miles, I'm going to have to be very disciplined about how I partition my time, especially after I graduate. And I'm working a 9 to 5, hopefully, fingers crossed, rather than having the flexibility that my schedule allows right now. And I'll have to be more concerted about my diet, because right now my diet is not horrible, but it resembles that of a 19-year-old who has way too much money and who has free health insurance. So all of these things that really need some work. And then of course, obviously my weight, which right now isn't an issue, but if I keep eating the way I am, it will be an issue in 10 years, 15 years from now. And so I think more or less the person you are at 30, as far as your health, your personality, your goals, the direction you're currently, going in, is probably gonna be a pretty big indicator of where you are the rest of your life. So if I'm on the verge of fat and unmotivated and undisciplined at 30, I'm probably going to be that way at 40, 50, 60. So I'm trying to be a little preemptive, I guess, and this is a good way to try and rein in all of those things to some degree or another. So it's got that at least. And after Gatorade, nothing better than beer as a post-workout. So I guess we'll call this day 1. 3 miles down. And I guess I'll do an update every month. I can't do this daily. That's just gonna get redundant. It's not gonna be much difference day to day. So I'll see you a month from now. The panic kind of starts to set in when I think, well, that was a pretty good 5 miles, but could I do that 10 times or 9 more times? It's like, oof, it's easy to get overwhelmed with thoughts like that, but you know, one step at a time. That's why I'm giving myself over a year to build up to this. So another day down. So it's been about a month since I started this endeavor. Admittedly, I've put down a lot fewer miles than I wanted to. I knew that would probably happen this month, and perhaps in general, had the wedding going on, had to evacuate for the stupid Hurricane Dorian, and I've started school back up, so I'm trying to get in the groove of that. So let's see. I've put down 28 measly miles in August. So not a lot. I mean, that's the most I've done in a month in years, but it's still not a lot. Not for what I'm trying to do here, obviously. But, you know, it happens. That's why I gave myself so much time. You know, I wanted to be realistic about what my days were going to look like. And, you know, oftentimes I'm going to come home and I'm not going to want to run. So I'm a notorious procrastinator in regards to everything in my life. And I used to procrastinate putting off running, or, you know, and now I have kind of, I don't know, changed my perspective, I guess you'd say. And I've started using running as a method for procrastinating on other things, which makes me more inclined to run. If it's one of those days where I'm on the fence and I'm like, yeah, I should run, but God, I really don't want to. I have the time, but I don't have the motivation today. And then it morphs into, well, if I run, then I don't have to do these other things I need to do for like at least an hour or two. And it makes it kind of more appealing to me, which is kind of strange. But I told one of my good friends a couple weeks ago that I intended on doing this, and he said, "Why on earth would you want to do that?" It kind of made me chuckle, and I was like, I don't know, just because it's a little crazy, I guess. I don't know, that the public perception around those kinds of things is always kind of interesting, because the people who do that are like generally looked at as being either, you know, benignly quirky or like straight up crazy, because they're, you know, they're risking their health in some instances, and they're doing it regularly, and they're just beating their body to bits for no obvious reason, you know, to a third-party observer. But, you know, obviously there's more to it than that. That's why we do it. But I don't know. Anyhow, hopefully September will be better. Yesterday was my birthday. I ate like a fat kid, and today that'll be my motivation to run some of that off. I'm squinting because there's sweat in my eye. I gotta get a bandana or figure something out. Oh. So I'm half done with this 6 miler. Doesn't feel especially great. Doesn't feel terrible either, but I kind of felt gassed from the beginning, even though I tried really hard, put a lot of thought into timing my meal before this. And that kind of stuff makes me appreciate the, you know, kind of the strategy involved in all of this. Because it's like, you want to eat as much as possible for the energy, but you don't want to eat too much and get a cramp or, you know, get an upset stomach, and you don't want to eat too little. How much water do you take? How fast do you drink it? You don't want it sloshing around in your stomach. You don't want to upchuck it. It's very, you know, a lot of thought. And that, you know, that need for strategy, you know, only grows the farther you're running. But anyhow. Well, that didn't work out. I ate that pound of pasta and I was like, oh, I'll take a nap. Maybe an hour. And then I forgot to set an alarm. And I slept for 3.5 hours.
And I was like, okay, I can still go running. And I'm like, no, I can't, because it's Halloween. And I can't run near dusk, close to dusk, and then come back and cook dinner and take a shower and stuff when there's going to be kids ringing on my doorbell asking for candy, which I did buy full size because I'm that guy. So I'm going to try this again today because I don't have anything going on, nothing but homework, nothing I got to do, nowhere I got to be, so I don't have any reason to not do it today. So round 2. But included in today was my 100th mile. I think before today it was 96 or a little over 100, which is cool, but this is what, 3 months now? And that's averaging 30 miles a month. That's 15, that's 7.5 a week. That sounds right. Unless my total is way off. Either way, I should, in a perfect world I'd be doing these long runs twice a week, every 2 or 3 days, but stuff gets in the way. What can you do? And I'm not super concerned about that, and that's why I gave myself 2 years to do it, like I keep saying. But hey, having a good time.
So, it's Sunday, which means it's time for a 10-miler. I'm going to go run where I... So it's Sunday, and that means it's time for a run. I'm going to do a 10-miler. Where I normally do long runs, which is the Rails to Trails. I think it's what it's called. No, it's the Upper Tampa Bay Trail. Just a network of like 10-foot wide asphalt trails, and it's a pretty good time. As far as I'm concerned, that's the farthest you can run uninterrupted on a trail in Tampa Bay, or at least in western Tampa Bay. I haven't run in 2 weeks, which is frustrating. I started a job and then school started up, and it's just been one thing after another. I would have ran yesterday, but my dryer broke and I had to spend 3 hours for fixing it. So just one thing after another. And I've kind of started to develop this love-hate thing with impending runs. I enjoy running, and I'm always glad after the fact that I went for a run, but I found myself procrastinating a little bit, like I should have ran last week, but I didn't, even though I had the time to. And then if I don't run when I know I should have, I kick myself and I feel guilty about it, and it's just one thing after another. So today, instead of my usual honey in the corner of a sandwich bag, I went out and got some honey stingers, these things. I've bought them in the past with the intention of using them for running, and I bought a lot of them, like 10 or a dozen or something, but I ate them all before I went running, so I wasn't able to actually use them for my intended purpose. So I ordered a case on Amazon because that's the cheapest way to get them that I could find. And then today I was like, no, I want them today for my run. Don't want to do honey. So I managed to find a place that sells them right down the road. So I went and got a handful. They didn't have a huge selection, but I don't really care. I'm not super picky on the flavor. I've had a lot of them. They all taste pretty similar, which I'm okay with. I'm not eating it because it tastes amazing. It's not just a regular old snack or anything. It's serving a purpose. So we'll see how that goes. Frankly, could not ask for better weather. In the shade, it's probably 65. Out in the sun, it's probably
70, 75 with a good breeze going. So as long as I stay moving, I don't think I'll get too cold. I think it'll be really, really nice. Of course, I got my podcast lined up as usual. And I keep a log of all my miles. I don't really have a particular reason for that. I just do. I keep data on all kinds of random stuff in my life that has never been useful to me, but whatever. And I was looking at it the other day because I have every time I run, and then I have monthly totals. And I was looking at it yesterday and I realized it had been 5 months already. I don't know where that 5 months went, but it was like, wow, can't believe I've stuck with something for 5 months. Which is kind of funny because I have a tendency of getting bored with a goal or a project and moving on to something else that catches my eye. And I was talking to a really good friend of mine who's also a Marine, and he is a bodybuilder and has been for many years now, as long as I've known him. And I was telling him, I think it's, after I do my ultra, I think I'm going to set a new goal, and I'm going to get huge and try bodybuilding and see where that gets me. And he laughed and he's like, well, you know who to call. And I just had to chuckle to myself after the fact because I haven't even finished with this goal, and this is the longest long-term goal I've ever had, and I'm already thinking about something else. So just one thing after another. So, you can probably see how quarantine has treated me a little too well. Obviously, I haven't been running. Been working full-time, finishing school, which ended Tuesday of last week. Today's Monday, so I'm now a USF graduate. Go Bulls, I guess. And all those business casual clothes that I bought in preparation for getting a real job, yeah, they don't fit anymore. So, I'm not even going to get on the scale. I don't want to know what it says. It's probably over 180. It's probably the fattest I've literally ever been in my life. Just look at the profile view. Look at that. I'm 3 months pregnant. I guess there's no sense in, feeling down about this and beating myself up about it. All I can really do is change today. Because, the best time to change was yesterday, but the next best is today, right? So, I just ran 3 miles. It wasn't that bad considering. But just time to get back on the train. So, we've been back in Alabama for basically 3 days now. Today was the first time I ran. And running in Alabama is fundamentally different from running in Tampa. Almost goes without saying. So today was only 3 or 3.5 miles, and it unequivocally whipped my ass. But that's okay. I'll probably keep my mileage a little low just to account for the fact that I now have to run in hills, and I've never consistently ran in a hilly place. So, that's okay. I'd rather have hills than not at this point, because wherever my ultra ends up being, it will probably be in Alabama somewhere on trails. So, and that will most likely be in foothills or mountains of some region. So I need to get used to hills and running in that type of environment. I'm not aware of a lot of trails here in Tampa. I almost said Tampa. Here in Auburn. But running on asphalt or concrete is, I still get the hill portion, but I would like to get some trail experience. And really the only thing that I know of is Chewacla State Park, which is primarily geared towards mountain bikers, but they also have some walking trails, and there's a good bit of elevation change. I think that's the highest place, or the highest part of the county. It's a whole new world.
and it's going to put me in my place if I wasn't already in it. I've also used moving as an opportunity to try and quit smoking for good. I don't know if I've ever explicitly said that before, but I've smoked on and off for the better part of a decade, really, and hopefully I can stick with it, because that's really the biggest thing that's going to hinder this progress. It doesn't matter how good I eat or how many miles I'm putting in. Those are always going to be hard miles if I'm constantly having to work against that, that daily degradation. So obviously it's easier said than done. Otherwise I would have quit a long time ago, but you know, got to start somewhere, I guess. So I'm looking forward to it though. The weather here is amazing in my opinion compared to Tampa. It's a lot drier. It's obviously a lot cooler on average. Even when the sun's out, it's not like killer. It's just great. I'm glad to be back. And it's going to be nearly time to choose a race. Right now I have 14 months to complete it. So we're in June. So yeah, September will be 1 year. New chapter. It's definitely going to be hard. I feel like every time I'm in the middle of a challenging run, I start to get a glimpse of just how difficult an ultra is going to be, and it feels really daunting. And then I finish my run, and it's the following day when I don't run, because I don't usually run consecutive days, just to make sure I don't cause any, overuse injuries or anything. And that following day, it always seems like less dire in retrospect. Like in the middle of a run, it's like, damn, I don't know if I can do this 50 times over, or whatever my distance is for that day. And then the next day, it's always, well, I'll do it again, and I'll try and add another mile next time, or another mile next week, or whatever it is, whatever my incremental increase is for that period of time. So I think that break is going to be necessary for my body as well as for my mind, because running long distances, I'm sure it's something you can get burnt out on. I never have personally, but it can be hard to find motivation, especially when it's like, oh, another 5 miles. I just did 5 miles yesterday. Do I really need to? And then you start trying to convince yourself that you don't need it. I'd rather just, write that into the whole plan and just go ahead and take a day off the following day. So
A lot of people like to pontificate about running and are convinced that you can achieve enlightenment if you run far enough. And I'm not really about the woo-woo business like that. But I think for me, running also is kind of meditative. When I'm on particularly long runs, I think about two things that I've heard before. One was in an ultra documentary, because I've watched just about all of those. Every time a new one comes out, I'm watching it. And the woman who was running it, I think she was competitive, like she was trying to place. She said, in an ultra, you will feel every emotion there is to feel. So hunger, joy, despair, pain, sorrow, triumph. And I was like, wow, that's deep. And I try to think about that. Which way do I go? Road less traveled. Here we go, Frost. I try to think about that a lot, for better or worse. And I try to keep that in mind, that, when things feel terrible and I feel like I'm in despair, it's temporary. It'll go away eventually. Maybe that's several hours from now, but it will go away. And the other thing, I think, another split. Is that rain or wind? It's definitely still raining, but here's to hoping that it stays as a sprinkle and the pretty dense tree cover catches most of it. If not, I'm gonna have to throw this in the backpack.
Luckily, I went through the effort of waterproofing it with some silicone spray, and I gave it like 3 heavy coats, so it should be good to everything except an absolute downpour. And the second thing was in a Joe Rogan podcast, and where he had Courtney Dauwalter on, which I thought was awesome. She's probably my favorite living runner. My favorite runner all time is Pre, but anyhow. And he's asking her several times, like, what drives you? What fuels you? Like, why are you doing this? And why are you pushing so hard and setting course records and overall records and beating men by a long shot and all of this other stuff? And she just didn't seem to have an answer for him that was satisfactory for Joe. And so that caused me to do some introspection, like, well, what's fueling me? Why am I doing this? Is that motivation gonna be enough to fuel me through 50 miles? A large portion of which could potentially be agonizing for whatever reason, or due to my bum knee, or what. So that's something I still think about a lot, what fuels me. I don't know if it's, I guess it could be any number of things. I have yet to put my finger on it, but I think that thing will have to be identified in order to, you know, push through when the going gets really tough. But until then, just put one foot in front of the other. So this is take 3 of trail running. So this is the first time I've gotten a long run in 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I tried to run in Tuskegee National Forest. That ended poorly just because it was so wildly overgrown and poorly marked. And it was towards the end of the day, and I was afraid that there was a good chance that I could get lost and it would be a very bad time because it's very remote. Yeah, I've been itching to get out because I knew that, you know, the longer it took for me to get out here, it was going to become more and more difficult because I'm going to start losing my conditioning. I feel like I'm kind of getting to the point where running is going to have to become a much larger part of my schedule. Like, up until this point, it's just been kind of a footnote. You know, I run one long run once a week, which is almost always on the weekend, and I basically don't think twice about it for the rest of the week. And I think that's probably okay for the kind of mileage I'm putting in right now, which is, you know, 11 to 13 miles. But I feel like it's going to have to become a much bigger part, a more prominent part of my schedule when the mileage becomes 15 to 20 miles regularly. I'm going to have to put a lot more thought into planning my runs. They're going to just inherently take longer. Going to have to put more effort into, you know, meals and food and eating as well as possible, and stretching before and after, and making sure I stay limber and injury free, because, you know, all it's going to take is one, you know, moderate injury when I'm running 20 or 25 miles at a time, and that's going to really set back training. And at this point, the race is in late January, so I have basically 4 months left. But today, it's Sunday, October 4th, and I think today is going to be 13 miles. Luckily, the weather has cooled down dramatically in Alabama, which makes for almost perfect running. Like, my run last weekend was almost perfect. I'm still running on the same trail I've been running for a few months now, just because, you know, I want the trail running experience come race time. And so it's very shaded, you know, there's a lot of cover overhead, so there's not a lot of direct sunlight, so it gets darker earlier if I'm running in the evening or late afternoon, but it also means I basically don't need a hat, and it stays very cool, and it's just nice.
I don't know, but it's gonna have to, running I think is gonna have to become my part-time job until after the race. I think that's just what it's gonna take. I'm kind of resigned to the fact that this run is going to wreck me. It's gonna destroy me. But I think, you know, ultimately my only goal, like I've said before, is just to make it by the cutoff time, right? I'm not trying to set any age group records, you know, FKTs or anything wild. I don't care about any of that stuff. I just wanna finish within the given time. And I feel like it's resigning myself to the fact that it's going to, you know, the wheels are gonna come off, makes it a little bit better, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there running competitively and otherwise who are like, I don't want the wheels to come off. I want to feel great the whole time, and, you know, do whatever it takes training wise or otherwise to make that happen. But I don't know how much of avoiding that there is with a 50 miler, especially when it's my first ultra. So I think just kind of upfront accepting the fact that it's going to wreck me makes training a little bit more realistic for me, and understanding what to expect. So I'm, you know, not massively surprised come mile 30 and I just feel like death and I just want to, you know, sit down on the side of the trail and go to sleep. So I don't know. I'm trying to be as realistic as possible.
Well, today is my first 15 miler, which should be interesting. I think it'll be a pretty good time. Interesting, I've started keeping stats on pace. I think currently I'm doing between 13:30 and 14-minute miles, which, if my math is right, puts me before the time cutoff for my race. But it also includes the stops that I make, so I think it's gonna translate pretty well to the actual race, because of course I'm gonna be stopping for breaks at aid stations and things like that. So the 15 miler is done. It was definitely starting to break me off. I feel like I could have probably done at most 5 more miles before the wheels really started to fall off. But I was definitely feeling every bit of the 15 miles. Yeah. 50 is gonna be fucking hard. A couple miles later, I totally forgot, mainly because I haven't been thinking about it much lately, somehow, that I quit smoking like almost exactly 2 months ago, which is wild, which is the longest, because obviously I've tried to quit in the past, on and off, for the last almost decade. No, decade, yeah. The $10,000 question is whether or not I feel any different, because I was still running quite a bit, or at least very frequently, not the same mileage, but I was running a lot while I was still smoking. And whether or not I feel any different now, no, I don't feel like I get gassed like later. I don't feel like my lung capacity is changed. It doesn't seem easier to run. Can't run faster. And that's probably due to the fact that I was never a heavy smoker. Toward the beginning of my military career, I was smoking a pack a day or more. And then it waned when I got married. It was probably a pack a week, pack every 4 days. And then when I got out of the military, it was probably a pack a week. And then for a couple years, it was basically 3 or 4 cigarettes a week, like maybe at most a cigarette a day. So it has very slowly gotten less and less. And maybe that was the key to it, rather than trying to go real cold turkey, because I've tried that several times. I don't know, but hopefully I can stay away. Well, it's been 6 days now since I ran my first 20 miler. I didn't initially set out to run 20 miles, but I got to mile 15 and was feeling cheeky, and I was like, oh, let's give 20 a shot. And 16 was okay, then 17, about 17 and a half, 18, the wheels started to come off a little bit. And then 20 was rough by the end of it, and I was feeling it. I'm still slightly sore 6 days later. So I'd originally intended on running throughout the week in addition to my long runs, just to get in volume and getting used to running while being already fatigued. But I don't know if that's going to be feasible, just due to the sheer time it takes to recover. I don't think that's going to be a good idea. I think that sounds like flirting with injury and disaster. But we are like 85, 90 days out from the race. And 20 miles was definitely a wake-up call. I think I'm at the point where I absolutely cannot take a day off and cannot roll back the mileage at all. Like, this weekend will have to be 20. The next one after that will probably have to be 22. And I think the farthest I'm going to go is probably 35 or 40 at the most. And I'll just leave those 10 miles just for, the bottom of the barrel, the very last dregs of the gas tank. That might come back to bite me in the ass. But I can't run 50 miles for practice. But it's gonna be rough, but definitely looking forward to it. And also, admittedly, I think I'll be very glad when it's over. Also broke down and bought a massage rolling pin thing. Can you believe this is $30? That's insanity. That's a racket. I'm in the wrong business. It's kind of a bit late in this recovery cycle for me to try it out, because I'll be running tomorrow and I'm basically not sore anymore from last week. But tomorrow I definitely will. I'll probably do most of it same day, and then a good deal more Monday, and then just like a little for the rest of the week, and see how much of a difference it makes, if at all. I have no idea. I hope it's not a gimmick, because I can't return it. This week I'm gonna get around to making basically a packing list for my weekend runs, because more often than not I'm forgetting something, whether that's nipple tape or toilet paper. Toilet paper is for obvious reasons. Snacks, water, Gatorade, gloves. I feel like the longer and longer I go, the more and more accessories I have. Chapstick, and I run with chapstick now. Since a couple weeks ago, that kind of like ruined my day. So I think I'm gonna just make a running packing list and just frame it and put it on the wall over here where I keep my keys and my wallet and my eyeglasses and things like that, just to be absolutely sure I can't forget something, because that would be a very bad time if I'm going out for 25 or 30 miler and I forget something really important. Hello? This dog. Do you want to run 50 miles? I guess not. So last weekend I got a email reminder from the race director saying, hey friend, guess what? The race is in 2 months. And I wasn't ready for that. Today I got 25 miles. Over the past few weeks I've had a little issue with one of my knees. Not even my bad knee, it's the other one, my right knee, which is problematic, and it starts to hurt and stuff. And so I've tried to make a particular point of stretching as much as I can, as frequently as possible, rolling as much as I can, stretching throughout the day at work, all this kind of stuff. And it's, it's been tolerable, but it's still being problematic. And I think that's something I'm just gonna have to deal with as it comes on race day. That makes me slower, so be it if I have to run through the pain. I'll do it as long as I'm certain it's not gonna result in something catastrophic like tearing something, which I don't think that would happen. I mean, I can't really say that for sure, I guess, but I'm just gonna have to feel it out is what I'm saying. So I've pretty much decided that I'm gonna top out at 40 miles. 40? Yeah, 40 sounds right. And that's gonna be 8 days before my race. So the holidays are over now, and I have 75 days till the race. Holidays were just as bad as I thought they would be. Ate too much, drank way too much, got fat and nasty and bloated, so didn't run as much as I wanted to. Had 2 subpar weeks. I did 2 weeks ago, I did 16 instead of 22 just because my knee was giving me problems, and this past weekend I did 0. There just wasn't any time between family expectations and everything else. So it is what it is, but I think I'm gonna have to come up with a week by week running schedule now, rather than flying by the seat of my pants like I've been doing for a year now. And I think I'm gonna make a point to eat a lot better, try and lose some weight. I'm at about 174 right now, and 150s or 140s would be nice. Try and get away from processed food as much as possible. Try and get away from soda, which is like my vice. So hopefully this week I'll be able to do 22. If my knee can hold up, which was a little bit concerning, but hopefully with like more rigorous stretching and warm up and stuff like that, I can avoid that, because that can be kind of devastating if that decides to blow up on me at some point now or during the race. I've been meaning to order this for a while, and I finally did. And then I totally forgot that I ordered it, and then it came in the other day, and I was like, oh, nice. I thought I ordered several, but I guess I just ordered one, so now I have to figure out which car I want to put it on, or maybe just order another one and put it on both. So now I guess I definitely have to run the race, otherwise I just wasted $5. So as of today, today's the 20th, February 20th, we are 1 month out. So I have one more run I'm going to try and do, 40 miles. I can't remember what day that is. I think it's within the next week. And then I'm going to not do any more long runs until my race. Which seems kind of risky as far as losing conditioning, I would agree. But the reasoning for that is just kind of the fact that my knee continues to give me issues. Well, I say my knee, the pain is in my knee, but it's my IT band. Continues to give me issues no matter what I seem to do, whether that's stretching, several hours a week, across every day. Rolling it, I've tried icy hot, I roll with a tennis ball, as well as a foam roller, and nothing seems to help. It still wakes me up in the middle of the night sometimes, so I think it's just something I'm gonna have to deal with, unfortunately. And I think I've said this in the past, like, it's not, my muscles aren't what's holding me back, it's my knee. Knee pain again. So at this point it just is what it is. I'm just going to be in pain for 10 hours, which I'm not enthused about. I mean, it definitely makes the prospect of the race a lot less enjoyable, but I still want to do it. And then after the race I'll probably take off like 3 or 4 months from running, and then maybe try and ease back into it very, very slowly, and see if that's at all helpful. I have no idea. Again, I'm still kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I'm gonna give myself a little credit here. Taking 2 weeks off was a pretty good call. My knee was bothering me basically from the beginning, and it was basically about the same level from mile 1 until mile probably 24, 25, and then those last 5 from 25 to 30, it was pretty bad, but I was able to push it out and get it done. So I ended up doing 30 miles today. So I think I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna do the same thing again. I'm gonna take another 2 weeks off because I'm not Courtney Dauwalter. I need time to heal in order to
come back to the 0 level unless I want to risk injury, which isn't something I want to do. So I'm going to take at least 2 weeks off, and then maybe I'll do 35 or 40, maybe 35, and then take another 2 weeks off, and then I'll do 40, another 2 weeks off, and I'll leave the last 10 for the race. Flying by the seat of my pants, but it's working so far, so I'm inclined to continue doing it. But today I ran for like 8 hours, which is insane to me. I mean, I'm listening to podcasts most of the time, so I'm pretty like, I'm not like actively thinking about my pain or anything like that, but it's just like I look at the clock and then I realize it's like, oh my God, I've been doing this since 7:30 and it's like 4:30. Holy shit. Which is wild to me. Why does anyone take ice baths? They're literally more painful than the injury itself. I hate this. 40 miles didn't work out. Did about half that before my glute pain was just too much to bear. And I thought about just pushing through it, but the ultimate goal is not to run 40 miles today, it's to run 50 in 3 weeks. So, this might be a stupid thing to say, but I'm less concerned about my overall conditioning, like my cardio and my mindset than I am about my body holding up for it. I'm not trying to run myself into the ground. I mean, maybe I will if that's what it takes, but I don't want to do that. That's not option one. So I think it's more important to do my 20 good miles today and then try and stay, reasonably active for the next 3 weeks until the race. And then come race day, come hell or high water, just give it to it, to be honest, kind of over this whole running thing. Maybe that's just because I run in the same place every time I run. It's very boring. I don't know. I think after my race I'm gonna be done running long distances for at least a while. I may entertain doing a marathon or doing, getting back into faster 5Ks or something like that. I don't know. But I think I'm done with 20, 30, 40 milers for a while. Especially, at least until I can get healed. So I think it's basically mostly here, with the exception of a cooler, a couple gallons of water that are already in the car. Most of my snacks, small accessories, camera stuff, batteries, towels, clothes. I really think my largest concern right now is making sure I don't forget something. Because right now I'm really not... It's not about like maximizing the pleasure of this race, it's about minimizing the pain of it. So forgetting something like chapstick could be really miserable if my lips become chapped and then it's suddenly all I'm thinking about for 8 hours or whatever. Or forgetting my nipple tape, or I don't know, forgetting Vaseline and then my inside of my thighs get chapped. That's stuff that makes you go from miserable to like wanting to die. So that's the biggest concern right now. The race, it'll happen 1 mile at a time, 1 step at a time. Right now, I gotta do all of my due diligence. So 2 days, 48 hours, I'll be done. Hopefully. It's like 9 p.m. But I do have 16 hours and it starts at 6:45. So I guess I technically could still be running at 9 p.m. Although I really don't want to. That would mean starting in the dark and ending in the dark. But we'll see what happens. I might have to start and then just get back. Just so I can get on the board.
know what I mean? There.
You should have come around and go. Everybody gone.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But there's another guy over there who was like, oh, I thought it was 6:45. There he goes. Love you.
Hey, buddy.
The shoes.
Look what you stuck.
I don't think this is actually an aid station.
No, it's not. But we're here.
Good.
You good?
Yeah.
You feel okay?
Yeah, still pretty good.
Where's your hat?
So I guess I can drop that. It's kind of heavy.
That's promising. It.
Need anything? We're gonna be down 3
Maybe you should
miles.
keep this.
I don't think I'll need that. I'm gonna see you again before it gets dark now. I'll see you all later.
Alright. Love you.
Bye, buddy. Good
See you later.
job.
He said the race started at 6:45. But when the race started, we were in the car listening to Jerry Buffett.
Do you remember which song?
Probably Margaritaville. So we just walked up there and he went throwing us out. But he wasn't the only one. There were other people who thought it was a 6:45 start. So now we're just waiting for him to come through.
So what's your take on this, Mom?
I'm here for my son.
How's the weather?
Not warm and sunny, that's for sure.
I mean, it's gonna be. Good job.
My knees are shot. I think I need my gloves back. Can't feel my hands.
Great.
Probably. I don't know, I'm on the range.
Good job.
No, I don't know. Really just close.
Did you see any wildlife?
Well, this is heaven, so.
Is that what they're calling?
Yeah.
Feels like something else. That was a lot of climbing. I was sweating.
It looked like there's a lot of climbing to get up here.
It's probably 1,000 feet. That's just 45 degrees.
Ooh.
You just have to put your hand on your knee and charge it out.
But look at the view. View's
Yeah,
awesome.
There's a lot of really nice, like most of it falls like this little babbling brook. And nice little boulder. Yeah. It's like something out of Lord of the Rings. Okay.
Well, you're like 20% done, so.
Huh?
Yeah, this is like a fifth of what you're gonna do.
This is like 8. Okay. No. This is 8 miles.
Okay, 2 more miles, and then you're at a fifth. You're 16% done. You're 16% done.
Not helpful. Thank you.
What does this taste like?
Like fruit waffle. Mostly honey.
Want any preemptive ibuprofen?
Yeah. Yeah, my knees are in bad shape. My glute is really tight. I'm concerned about muscle, I'm concerned about my joints.
Well, we're proud of you.
Chili.
You did a great job.
skedaddle.
Ooh, stay warm.
Love you. Bye.
Don't tell Thomas, but some guy came up in here and he was looking rough. And we were sitting in the car and he passed by and he said, hey, y'all got some water? He was looking rough, wasn't he, Mom?
He was. He really was.
So I said, yeah. And we put some of Thomas's Gatorade in his water bottle and we gave him a bottle of water. But don't tell Thomas.
Your secret is safe with us.
I was trying to be a good Samaritan. That guy was looking rough.
Sure.
He said, oh, it just got so hot so quick. I should have offered him some sunscreen. Because he didn't. Oh, he did have a hat, didn't he?
Wade would have done the same thing, I'm sure.
Didn't he say he was a Marine also? I think he said he was a Marine. So, you know, you got to take care of your fellow Marine. Semper Fi.
Hoorah.
Way to go. Good job.
Hey, Anna, what do you have there in that Ziploc bag?
One of 2 Pop-Tarts. The other one he took with him.
And what was in that Ziploc bag before you put the 1 of 2 Pop-Tarts in there?
Dirty socks for the first half of the race. What am I going to do with half a Pop-Tart, though? I'm not going to eat it.
But you know, it might taste like dirty socks.
Strawberry Pop-Tart, dirty socks. It's all the same. But you know, listen, I can't get rid of this Pop-Tart. He would be very upset if I threw away a Pop-Tart on him.
He would. Yes, he is a Pop-Tart fan.
Probably in his head, he's like, I'm saving that for mile 40.
That's right.
What's going on right here? Lake Martin, 2021. Happy to be here.
Come on, Marine.
Where they at?
Where's your hat?
It's all, I guess I can drop that. It's kind of heavy.
You're doing great.
You know, telling me you're at the bottom of the hill, not specific.
Sorry.
You found us, though.
We got all your good stuff. We got you a spot in the sun, a chair.
I don't know if sitting for too long is a great idea.
You want on it?
I don't think it's going to help us, sure.
Were you cramping up?
No, it's my IT bands. They're rubbing on the outside of my knee. So the only thing that's going to solve it is an opioid. Or 6 months.
6 months
both.
what?
I'm not running.
Oh.
You need any food?
Not really.
Banana?
Not really. This is going to be a long day.
And you thought it wasn't?
I knew it would be long, but now I know it's going to be long.
Yeah. You're in the midst of it.
You know just how long?
Don't tell me how far I'm going to get depressed.
All right.
It's probably a lot less than I think.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
You're doing
good. You're doing good.
I haven't looked at my phone or a clock or anything. So
Well,
You're doing fine.
I don't need to.
Any epiphanies while you're running?
Not yet. Ask me a mile like 30 or 40.
Don't get used to this.
You want me to pack you a Pop-Tart?
No, I'm good. The only thing I need solved is my knees, and you can't solve that.
I don't think that's proper.
I mean,
trail etiquette.
if you want sugar, you got your Milanos here.
Yeah, only 1 or 2, but I ain't trying to spend half my time pooping.
Did you poop yet?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
A bunch of other people have too, so I don't feel bad.
Really?
Yeah.
You can see them off on the side of the road.
Yes. See their shirt pop behind a pine tree that's wide enough to hide them. Like, yeah, I know what you're doing. I feel you.
Tales from the trails.
Have you ever done a trail race if you haven't pooped in the woods? Not really.
Tales from the trails. Sweet.
Really shouldn't sit that long.
Maybe I'll just stay here, you know.
See, that's the problem. You really need to keep moving.
Just go suffer a little more.
You're doing great.
It's a good Saturday to suffer.
You're doing good, buddy.
I'll see you.
Bye, love ya.
Is that 27? Is that where they're giving medals?
Yeah.
When I came here through here the first time, it was confusing as shit.
Yeah.
I had nowhere to go. I had to ask someone.
Yeah, we were confused watching people.
So you already came through here once?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, because when we came over here and I looked on you, I was like, he's on that side of us.
So is this 25?
This is 25.
That's good.
You're halfway, baby.
I wish I had a cold coat.
Do you want it?
I don't know.
We can get you one for the next stop.
See you at like the next meeting.
What you need?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you are.
Just
keep
You
saying.
are.
Yeah.
Yep.
More than halfway.
It's downhill. Metaphorically, it's all downhill.
I was behind her the first 25 for like 6 miles, and we were just struggling in silence. And then she says, "Okay, that's good." And then she says, "I'm gonna let you pass me. It's coming." And I was like, "I understand." She's the only person I've seen since I started singing loop.
Yeah, there's definitely not as many people or spread out.
Do you need any Vaseline?
Not yet. It's been fine.
You're doing good.
Watch
Once
out.
you get to Heaven Hill, babe, it's in the bag. You know? You just go back to the cabin and then go back to the cabin.
I think the first part is the worst, because like towards the end of this, it's like 1,000 feet straight up and straight back down.
Well, that's
Like you have to grab trees to pull
Really?
yourself up. It's like 70%.
Really?
that's
it's
the last
hard.
time. You only do it one more time and then you're done.
Yep.
You're so close, babe.
Doable.
You need any t-shirt change or anything?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I take a pop tart for the road.
Pop tart for the road. Or did you accept it?
That makes me sad.
Why, that's broken?
Okay.
You want me to save this other half for you?
Yes.
Alright. Bye, buddy. We'll see you in Heaven's Hill.
You're doing so great.
So let me pause and give a little context to that. I had to make that 1920s silent because they were playing very loudly some extremely popular and extremely copyrighted music. And if I were to include that, this would probably get copy striked. And not worth it. Spent a year and a half making this. I'm not going to have it taken down by something stupid like that. But he asked me if I wanted some Fireball, and I was like, "Are you serious right now?" He was like, "Yeah." So he gave me a shot of Fireball. I drank it, and it was a good time. So, and then my mom decided to interview him after the fact. So, really appreciate that. That shot was needed, maybe more than he'll know. Or maybe he does know, and that's why he offered it. But what a nice human being. And after that, I didn't see any other runners for a very long time. And it got very lonely very fast. A lot of the rest of that was like roads, so it was good running, although at that point I could barely run to begin with. It was more like a fast shuffle. But it was, at that point, it was starting to sink in, like the euphoria was basically gone. And I was like, man, this is going to be hard. And even at that point, I didn't realize how hard it would get on the last section. But at that point, it was really starting to set in that like I was going to have to dig deeper than even I had initially thought.
Thomas. I'm glad you're dumping in the deep end. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, you find stuff that's hard, you don't know if you can do, you give it a try, right? You're likely gonna fail, but that's like the whole part of it, right? It's like, okay, I failed, and now I'm gonna figure out how to do it. Hard not. Maybe drink beer. No, absolutely drink beer. So, good luck, Thomas.
Do you want anything in here? A honey stinger?
I don't think so.
Cookies?
How far is it before I come back here?
5.
Okay, so that's enough. I think most of those roads too, which is nice. What is this, 35?
Got most of the beat.
Yeah, this is like 35 right here. You got...
I guess 50 more won't kill me, or maybe it will.
Well,
You're
just make
doing
sure
so
you die
good.
after the 15.
Yeah. I should take my phone so you know where I am.
You don't count battery?
Yeah, it's 8%. Oh, I'm so ready to be done. So tired.
You're so close. You got 3 more aid stations and then you're done.
Yeah.
You got any special requests for dinner?
I want a margarita.
A margarita?
I've been saying give me lots of songs for a couple times. Anywhere that's got a fat margarita. Okay, I'm leaving.
You good? Alright, 3 more aid stations. And the last one is it. Love you.
There you go.
So at about a mile 25-30, I'm beginning to realize that as much as I want to rest, stopping to rest becomes a worse and worse idea, because the farther I run, even if I stop for the same amount of time, it will be more and more difficult to get started again. So the first break that I took was not a big deal. It took me maybe a quarter mile, a half mile to get movement of my legs and my knees back. And after that, it just takes longer and longer and longer until that movement doesn't come back at all without extreme pain. So by 30, 35, and 40, I want to sit down. I really can't. Even if I wanted to, it would be kind of painful, but getting started back up again would be even harder. So I basically, it's like creates like a vicious cycle where I'm getting more and more tired, but I'm able to rest a shorter and shorter amount of time, which I think is something probably a lot of people running their first ultra might not realize. At least if they have problems similar to mine. But I didn't expect that. That was rough.
Here he is, coming in on mile 45. He needs Vaseline for his butt.
Hey, buddy, we're almost there.
Yes.
What do you need?
And gloves.
Gloves. You want to sit? No.
There's too much.
You know, babe, I don't know what you did with your beanie.
It's in that closet.
This one?
The big one. I know.
You can go over there. How extensive you're gonna get.
Expensive enough.
No. Rough.
You getting this?
You don't look too bad.
You want your gloves and then this?
Just take the rest.
We'll see you at the finish.
We'll see you when
All right, buddy. Bye. Good job.
Good job, runner. Stay strong. Woohoo!
So this is my last 5 or 6 miles, something like that. And if the doldrums hadn't started when I left the Fireball station, then they definitely started here. Because at this point, my knee was 100% shot. I can't move it more than probably 15 degrees without excruciating pain that sometimes made me like, scream a little bit or groan audibly. And luckily I was alone, so it wasn't a big deal. But it got dark very, very fast in those dense kind of woods, and the slow going became even slower going. And it got dark and it got cold, and my knee was giving me such difficulty going, not so much up inclines, but down hills and descents. It was so difficult just because of the way I have to move my body and then put weight on each foot at a time. I had to find like a branch and break it off so that it was about chest height to use as a walking stick, so that I could like put weight on it as a useful second legs. So that was kind of rough, and those continued to break. So I would get frustrated and then try and go a few minutes without using one and realize I definitely needed one. I would have to find another one till that one broke, and I think I went through 3 or 4 before I finally found one that was sturdy enough to last most of the rest of those like 4 miles. And I think people kind of realized that this was unusual because I got passed maybe 5 or 6 times by just faster people doing the 50 and also 100-mile people, and they were like, "Are you okay, dude? Like, do you need help?" And I was like, "No, my knee just stopped working. Not a huge deal. We'll get there. It's just going to take a while." And people are pretty understanding. Like, most people are doing 50 and 50s and 100s regularly have been pretty seriously injured at some point or another. So that was really frustrating, and then I was in a lot of pain and it was making me gasp and breathe heavily, so I was drinking more water than usual, and then I ran out probably with another 2 miles to go, and that was kind of concerning. I didn't think that would end badly. It was just like another level of discomfort. Like now I have a dry mouth in addition to being in pain, and it's dark and it's cold. And luckily I was wearing a beanie and gloves, but I was still pretty cold because I'm not moving fast enough to stay warm like I was for most of the day. And it dropped down to I think 45 or closer to 40, so it was pretty cold. And I didn't really realize until I had finished how cold I was, which is probably on the verge of hypothermia. I was sitting in the car with the heater on full blast in my face, on my direct face, and on my hands directly, and I couldn't stop shivering. And the whole way back to the Airbnb, which was 15 or 20 minutes, I couldn't feel my hands, and the back of my hands were still like icy cold. And I took a shower immediately, which I had to have help with because I couldn't like stand by myself very well. And even after like this really hot shower, I was still like shivering, and I had to immediately put on a sweater and a beanie and stuff, and I still couldn't get past it. So I got in bed. I got like all the covers in the Airbnb and a blanket my parents had brought, and I had to wrap a blanket around my head. Because I didn't have a beanie. I had to wrap a blanket around my head to keep to keep that warm, and like I was finally able to get over it. But at that point I was like, man, I was probably towing the line a little too closely, because I feel like if I hadn't had a beanie, if I hadn't had gloves out there, or if it had taken me another hour to do for whatever reason, then I'm, was flirting with disaster, I guess. But in retrospect, it was a pretty foolish thing to do, for sure.
All right, Hannah. Yeah. While we wait for Wade to do his last leg of this race, any thoughts?
I'm not gonna lie. Like 6 months ago, he asked me to be honest about what I thought, if I thought he was really gonna do it. 6 months ago, before he registered for this race. And he, at that time, I don't think he was running more than 20 miles at a time. And I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. Which seems really harsh, right? Like, as a wife. And I feel kind of bad for saying that, but we're pretty honest with each other. But I also knew that if he made it to like 30, 40 miles at this race, I knew he would finish it. So once we saw him get to Heaven Hill, I was like, yeah, it's in the back for him. He's gonna finish. And he's been really, really positive all day long. This last time we saw him was the most like down we've seen him. Like, he just wanted to be done. So I'm really proud of him.
Woohoo! You made it! You made it! Nice job! Woohoo!
You're on metal.
Finish? It's amazing. Congratulations. Good job.
15:47.
What?
Actually, I think I died about 10 times.
Wow. Well, here you are.
Well, you want food, or you want rest, or you want a shower?
I don't care.
No, it's up to you.
I would like food, but I would also like to get in and out of a car as few times as possible because it's painful.
Well, we can just go home and order a pizza or something. I don't know.
If you're okay with that, otherwise you can just take me back to the Airbnb and drop me off, and you can go get food wherever you want.
My turn. So when I told you I was going to do this a year and a half ago, did you think I would actually follow through?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Seriously. You're pretty stubborn. You've always been stubborn as a child.
Stubborn. That's one trait you have that will carry you through. You are stubborn.
Stubborn and will and pure determination.
You could say persistent, but we rather use the word stubborn.
So now, here we are, 2 days later, still in pretty rough shape, but, I'll make it. And now the question is whether or not I'm going to do any more ultras, another 50, or maybe try my hand at 100. Even though most of the day running, I was like, I'm never doing this ever again. But I feel like that's the story people always tell themselves. They're in the moment, they're dead set on never doing it again, and then after the fact and the pain subsides, they're like, maybe I see the value in this, perhaps. But I think as of right now, that's going to be a no from me, at least until I can get my knees sorted out, because that's the main thing holding me back. Blisters I can deal with, muscle pain that I can deal with, but that kind of like pointed excruciating pain is really problematic and extremely debilitating. So probably looking at that, some physical therapy, some cortisone, I don't know yet. It remains to be seen. But I won't say absolutely not, because I've said that before about a lot of things, including ultras. So I guess we'll just have to see. And yeah.